Caterham is a town in the Tandridge District of Surrey, England. The town is administratively divided into two: Caterham on the Hill, and Caterham Valley, which includes the main town centre in the middle of a dry valley but rises to equal heights to the south. The town lies close to the A22, 21 miles from Guildford and 6 miles south of Croydon, in an upper valley cleft into the dip slope of the North Downs. Caterham on the Hill is above the valley to the west. Due to its proximity to London, Caterham is a commuter town, with small to medium-sized businesses of its own but relatively few industrial parks. It has a significant area of retail and restaurants in Caterham Valley as well as pubs dotted throughout. History: an encampment on the top of White Hill, in Caterham Valley south of Caterham School, between Bletchingley and the town centre is called the Cardinal's Cap, which was excavated and inspected in designating it a scheduled ancient monument, with close ramparts forming two or more lines. Archaeologists describe the fort as a large multivalate hill fort at Warcopper's Camp. Its inner bank is about 0.5 meters wide and 0.4 meters high, with a ditch 7 meters wide and 0.3 meters deep situated 2 meters below its crest. To the west of the ditch is the second bank, 8 meters wide and 0.5 meters high. Beyond this, the second ditch has become completely infilled over the years but survives as a buried feature approximately 8 meters wide, visible as a terrace. Traces of a second, slighter terrace are situated further down the slope, representing evidence of additional scarping. The defences to the northeast include an inner bank 5 meters wide and up to 0.5 meters high from the interior and 4 meters high from the exterior, with a surrounding ditch 8 meters wide and 0.6 meters deep. Beyond this is a counter-scarp bank 6 meters wide and up to 1 meter high. A 35 meters long section of a second ditch, which has become partially infilled over the years, survives 25 meters further out to the northeast. In the southern and southeastern areas of the monument, sections of the hill fort have been disturbed by later quarrying activity. Although the monument was originally thought to be either Roman or Neolithic in date, excavations in 1950 showed it to be Iron Age, and what had previously been thought to be a fragment of an earthwork was almost complete, with the banks of the ramparts having been palisaded and revetted to strengthen their defence. The town lies within the Anglo-Saxon feudal division of Tandridge 100. Post-Norman conquest, Caterham's Church of St. Lawrence is of Norman construction and retains a rector as its incumbent. In the reign of King John, Roger, son of Everard the Guise, gave this, including its church lands, to the monastery of Waltham Holy Cross. Everard's grandfather was Geoffrey of Caterham, who gave land to his son in the 12th century. This monastery ran the glebe as a manor, receiving a grant of free warren in their domain lands of Caterham in 1253, holding it until the dissolution of the monasteries. Caterham's original village centre consisted in the nearest part of the ridge of Caterham on the hill to the railway station in Caterham Valley, including at the street ascending the relatively steep, short hill, Church Hill. Although no conservation area has been designated in either civil parish, 4 secular buildings, including the King and Queen Public House, 3 churches as well as a vault and tomb in St. Lawrence's churchyard are listed. These are along Hill Street, Church Hill and Caterham on the Hill. The combined manors of Caterham, Porkle, Upward, Gateers and Hallingbury. Porkle had been formerly included in the manor given to Waltham Abbey. Together the latter manors comprised 1,000 acres. Humphrey Stafford, 1st Duke of Buckingham, held these manors, leaving them in 1458 to his third son John Stafford. 1st Earl of Wiltshire when his son died without issue in 1499. Under the terms of grant, the elder branch, the following Duke of Buckingham, inherited. His heirs sold them on the dissolution to Lord Berners, who died in debt in 1533, resulting in bona vacantia and seizure by the Crown. In 1570, Thomas Sackville, 1st Earl of Dorset, as Lord Buckhurst, later Lord High Treasurer, held the manor of Caterham and Portal Farm, which he conveyed in that year to Henry Shelley. Sir Thomas's Sons' widow leased the lands in 1599 to her half-brother, main plots additionist Henry Brooke, 11th Baron Cobham. Then in 1615, her daughter Frances Leveson gave the rest of that lease. The tenants attained it to Sir Edward Barrett and Walter Barrett, while the reversion was held by Sir Richard Sons. George Ede purchased this massive estate in 1612 and it passed to Jasper Ockley in 1616. Sir Isaac Shard, who was one of two sheriffs of the City of London in 1730, who conveyed it to Thomas Clarke and then passed as with the other manors. In 1911, W. L. Williams, its owner, lived at Portley in what remained of the estate. A Stafford School in Caterham on the Hill occupies a small part of the estate and is named after the earlier known owner. Adjoining Sunny Down School, state-run, is at what was Portley House and is for secondary education for boys with a statement of special educational needs. The Manor of Salmons, the only manor, did not have his high-profile owners. In 1339, John de Horn released some land Caterham to Roger Salaman, who at his death in 1343 was sized of a tenement. A Manor of Salmons appears in 1605 by William Jordan, who soon afterwards acquired the second Manor of Caterham, with which Salmons afterwards descended. It was bought out of Chancery, into which it went on a death of Charles Day, by George Drew, who sold to members of the Horn family, who owned the relatively small estate in 1911. Post-Reformation. In 1544, the king granted the main rectorial manor was granted to William Sackville J.P. In 1553, William Sackville and Eleanor passed the manor to Robert Hartop, goldsmith of London, dying 2 years later, succeeded by Elias, his son, who was left it to his nephew John, whose widow Joan sold the manor in 1609 to George Evelyn, who gave it to his son Sir John Evelyn on his marriage to Elizabeth Cox. Later owners of the manor were Sir John's purchaser James Lynch, his issue including Susan Hussey and her son James, who sold the manor in 1699 to George Roffey. His nephew inherited it of the same name, and in 1770 his sons sold the title alone and perhaps housed to Matthew Robinson. Richard Hewitson bought it in 1780, passing it to his nephew Henry Hewitson, holding until the Regency period. Henry's nephew William Hewitson ceased to lay claim to any manorial rights. However, in any event, the lands had been separately sold to Henry Rode, whose son Henry settled the estate on his wife Susan Glover in 1765. Their daughter Catherine Glover inherited these lands. A second manor, Manning and Bray, report on was the main tenants under the monastery and was held by, for example, buyers: William Jordan in 1607, Sir Isaac Shard, who held his first court in 1726. After 1825, Charles Day of the firm of Day and Amp Martin held, but leaving no clear heirs, this estate ended up in the hands of the Chancery. Taxing Judge George Henry Drew held the main lands and title, followed by W. L. Williams in 1911. Post-industrial revolution under Rev. James Legrue. In the early 19th century, the church tithes were commuted for £400, retaining a glebe of 5 acres. In 1840, Caterham contained a total of 477 residents, and in 1848, 468 acres of its 2,386 acres were common land. Similar to today, 175 acres acres. Mostly steeper acres were woodland. The more modern locality of Caterham Valley, in a wide dry valley opening to the north and along its slopes, is a product of the Victorian age and the coming of the Caterham railway line in 1856, which is still a terminus. Victorian expansion of the town required the building of a much larger parish church, leading to the Church of St Mary the Virgin's building in 1866, directly across the road from St Lawrence's. As it also grew, Caterham Valley gained its own Anglican church, to St. John the Evangelist, which was consecrated in 1882. From 1877, Caterham Barracks on the hill was a depot for the Foot Guards regiments. The barracks were closed in 1995 and the site was redeveloped for housing. Two high streets therefore served two very close yet substantial and affluent communities, one with the railway station and more modern buildings, one with more historic buildings as soon as the closest hill is climbed from the heart of Caterham Valley. This setup means that localism is present in that the Godstone Road during the middle of the 20th century bypassed Caterham Valley, staying high and using Tilling Down along the east of Caterham Valley from St John's School to the Croydon Road roundabout, thereby removing A22 traffic, while businesses set up and thrived in the valley itself. On 6 July 1974, PC John Schofield was shot and killed while on patrol in Caterham. In 1975, an IRA bomb exploded in the Caterham Arms public house, injuring 10 off-duty soldiers and 23 civilians. The pub was popular with the Welsh Guards, who had recently returned to Caterham Barracks after serving in Northern Ireland. The men responsible for the bombing were later jailed for a string of murders and bombings. They were released in April 1999 following the Good Friday Agreement. Landmarks. The North Downs Way, a national trail popular with walkers, passes very close to the town and is readily accessible from either Hairston Valley Road at Upwood Lane, the Celtic Hill Fort promontory of the Downs mentioned above, the Cardinal's Cap, and Foster Down, a Pilgrim's Fort, a London defensive fort at the top of part of the ridge forming Godstone Hill, in Caterham Valley. Local government. Surrey County Council, headquartered in Kingston, elected every 4 years, has 2 councillors from Caterham. David Hodge, leader of the County Council and representative of Wallingham, lives in Caterham. Caterham has 10 representatives on Tandridge District Council, headquartered in Oxted. Caterham has 2 civil parish councils, Caterham on the Hill and Caterham Valley. Caterham Valley Parish has 2 wards, Hairston and Caterham Valley, each electing 3 elected parish councillors. The parish council clerk is Maureen Gibbons. Caterham on the Hill has 3 wards, Portley, Queen's Park and Westway, each electing 3 parish councillors. The parish council clerk is Helen Broughton. Geography. Administrative geography. Before 1889, Caterham was the most eastern market town of a Surrey that stretched north to Southwark. Northeastern parts of the county were absorbed gradually, in part by the County of London in 1889 and then to towns and villages within the present boundaries that form Greater London in 1965. From 1885, Oxted and Godstone developed from villages to towns. Tandridge District formed on 1 April 1974, under the Local Government Act 1972, by the merger of Caterham and Wallingham Urban District along with Godstone Rural District. Physical geography. Caterham is 21 miles from the county town of Guildford and 15.5 miles south of London. Caterham on the Hill is located on a considerable area of upland extending north past adjoining Kenley Aerodrome to Kenley and Hartley Hill in Reedham. This elevated area carries on west until Hooghly, Old Merstham, and forms a very narrow, fairly steep ridge south of Caterham Valley's centre. East of the centre of Caterham Valley are marginally higher rolling pastures of the north. Downs on top of a more crevassed smaller mass of upland which forms the village of Woldingham, followed by a much larger area of upland stretching from Biggin Hill to Down and Knockholt, Kent. The M25 motorway is 80 to 90 metres below and less than 200 metres south of the North Downs path and the southern border of Caterham Valley civil parish, and is linked by an uninterrupted hilltop dual carriageway to the north of Caterham and its lowest point, Croydon Road roundabout. In the south of Caterham are the following hills. Elevation, soil and geology. Elevations range from the height above in the southwest extreme at White Hill Tower, Warcoppice Road in Caterham Valley, to 110 metres above Ordnance.Datum along the railway track, immediately below Croydon Road roundabout, a tripoint partly in Woldingham, Whiteleaf and Caterham. Caterham lies within the North Downs, and Caterham Valley's southern border is immediately south of the North Downs Way, part of a national trail network, which is here on top of the southern edge of the North Downs. Soil here has the expected shallow, lime-rich soil over chalker limestone at the escarpment, with lower parts of the escarpment summit here, where the topsoil has eroded, having slightly acid, loamy and clayey soils with impeded drainage, which makes that soil particularly fertile. The Gault clay and the middle chalk that lies under the North Downs are both at their thickest around the valley that occupies the centre of Caterham Valley, while earlier Cretaceous clays and greensand and sandy material underlying is evident where terrain has eroded. 90 million years ago the North Downs hard chalk was deposited, a white limestone comprising over 95% calcium carbonate. It contains thin beds of marl and nodules of flint, either scattered or in bands. The North Downs extending from Farnham to Dover are formed by this chalk. They now have an often white, almost vertical south-facing slope. In lower slopes flints washed up by early seas come more to the surface and appear closer to the surface. Localities: Caterham Valley. The civil parish of Caterham Valley has the more developed High Street presenting the main town centre for the whole community and has a population of 7,581. The parish church of St. John the Evangelist was consecrated in 1882. The railway station is a terminus in the central, dry valley at the heart of this very large neighbourhood. Traffic to and from the London and Croydon to the north heading towards the M25 motorway is routed around the town on the A22 over the Caterham bypass, opened in 1939 as one of the earliest such roads in the country. Caterham School is a large independent co-educational day and boarding school situated along the sides of the Heston Valley. North Downs Hospital is a small private establishment on the outskirts of the town run by the Ramsay Healthcare UK. Caterham on the Hill. Caterham on the Hill is the second of the two civil parishes. This clustered development of villages directly to the northwest of the other entire valley part of the town and does not have steep slopes or a wide divide between upland and downland developments unlike Caterham Valley. It has a population of 11,555. It was the original development in the area so has more listed buildings compared to Caterham Valley, which has a few early Victorian outlying homes and its church listed. Most of the state-run primary and secondary schools are in this part of the town, including De Stafford School. Former barracks. The Caterham Barracks Trust run some facilities at the site of the former Caterham Barracks Guards Depot. The site is occupied by a supermarket, housing and various leisure facilities, including an arts centre and indoor skate park housed in the former Guards Chapel. Terry Waite and David Sterling trained at the barracks. A number of films, TV series were fully or partially filmed at the barracks. They Were Not Divided, filmed by Two Cities Films, an Invasion Earth series filmed by the BBC. Mental hospitals. Caterham Asylum, later known as Caterham Mental Hospital and later still as St Lawrence's Hospital, was a very large establishment for the treatment of the mentally ill. Patients came from all over London to this well-known institution that by 1930 grew to over 2,000 beds. Joey Deacon lived in the hospital or its grounds for over 50 years. Most of the site has now been redeveloped as housing, but a few buildings remain, although they are now empty, and planning permission has been given for the buildings to be demolished and 161 homes built on the site. Joey Deacon's bungalow, Holland House, is scheduled for demolition, but the Blue Peter bungalow, Woodview, is to remain as a care home. Hospital. Caterham on the Hill has its own small NHS hospital, Caterham Dean, run by First Community Health and Care CIC, offering a range of inpatient and outpatient services, including a minor injury unit, demography and housing. At the 2011 census, Caterham has a total population of 21,090 people among 8,543 households, an increase of 130 households in 10 years. The average level of accommodation in the region composed of detached houses was 28%. The average that was apartments was 22.6%. The proportion of households in the civil parish who owned their home outright compares to the regional average of 35.1%. The proportion who owned their home with a loan compares to the regional average of 32.5%. The remaining percent is made up of rented dwellings. Commerce. Churchwalk. Churchwalk Shopping Centre is a small shopping mall situated opposite Caterham Railway Station in Caterham Valley. Churchwalk was built on the site of the Valley Hotel, which was demolished in 1988. Long before the Valley Hotel was built, there used to be a tennis court, croquet lawn, rose garden, fountain, and Misty Wallace nursery. Local companies. Caterham Cars. Makers of the Caterham 7 sports car no longer have a presence in the town, having moved to Crawley in February 2013. The building that they occupied is now being turned into more homes for retired people. The house building company, Crudus, have their head office in Caterham. Caterham and Stafford schools and several supermarket chains are also large local employers. The town also has lots of vacant buildings, most of which are behind hoardings. William Hill Interiors are a well-known local furniture store selling furniture in Caterham since 1948. The site of the shop has in the past been a lunch hall and car garage. Much of the history can still be seen from the building. Smaller specialized businesses include Caterham on the Hill's only traditional country saddler, S1988, known as Unicorn Leather Saddlery. They are responsible for manufacturing their own products to include the safety and first aid product called the Locator trademark and handmade natural leather conditioner. Transport. Caterham Railway Station is the modern terminus of the 1856-built Caterham line from Purley. Trains operate into London Victoria Station and London Bridge Station. 8 bus routes operate through Caterham, with half being operated by Metro Bus. They run buses from Caterham to places such as East Grinstead, Croydon, Redhill and Oxted. Of the remaining 4 routes, buses are run by Quality Line to Old Coulsdon, Abellio London to Sutton, Arriva London to Addington Village, and South Down PSV to East Grinstead.